This show plot was planted in 15-inch rows. It was planted on June 8th, so it is on the late side. It was no-tilled in about 175,000. It did pop out of the ground pretty quick, as you'd imagine at that date, but obviously just because of the calendar, it is behind as you would expect. So, a couple of other comments about things coming up in the future here. One of the things we're doing this year on the soybean and wheat seed treatments, we've created a package called Protect. And Protect is going to be, there'll actually be 3 levels of treatments for soybeans. You'll Protect D, which will just cover diseases. Real strong protection for Phytophthora, Pythium, Rhizoctonia. You'll have a Protect DI that will add an insecticide component to that. And then we started last year, 2 years ago, with the Ultra combination, which is the DI, and also includes BioForage and Optimize seed inoculant. So kind of an ultimate seed treatment package, if you will. So we can talk more about some of those and the benefits. We think you guys are really seeing the benefits of the seed treatment because we're watching the trend in the sales going radically. We're approaching over 80% of our soybean sales are now treated with a seed treatment, and actually a large portion of that's treated with the insecticide seed treatment. So one of the other things kind of was alluded to earlier this evening is weed control. One of the things that are coming down the pipe in terms of soybean genetics and traits and so on and so forth, the first 2 products that we're looking at here in the short term would be 2,4-D or Enlist soybeans. So these beans are going to be resistant to Roundup or glyphosate, as well as a formulation of 2,4-D. The other one I'm going to ask Steve Walker to talk about here in just a moment is Monsanto will have the Roundup Ready 2 yield beans along with dicamba tolerance. So we'll be able to put a dicamba type product on those beans to help tremendously, even with water hemp and so on and so forth. Some of those products. I lost Steve. Where'd you go? Right in front of me. And down the pipeline then we're going to see some other products. We'll see some soybean stacked with Liberty Link and glyphosate. You'll see soybean stacked with Balance GT, some other things, but those are all further down the pipeline. Really the first 2, and Steve, I'll let you talk about kind of the time frame of when they can start to see some of the Extend soybeans.
Yeah, as Randy said, we're entering the stacked trait soybeans, which is Roundup Ready Extend, which is dicamba tolerance added to the existing Roundup or glyphosate tolerance. A year ago, we would have said we were going to be launching it this year in 2014. That has changed here in the past 6 months or so. What we thought you don't see plots out here today because it's still a regulated product. We thought it would have been approved by now about 4 months ago or so. The USDA decided they were going to go through a more extensive review process on both Extend and Enlist, which Randy mentioned. That will basically delay that introduction, we believe, a year. So what we thought was going to be 2014 will be, we're planning for 2015 launch. So we'll have, we had some training with Extend this year. We'll have some more in 2014. We'll have a much broader spectrum of germplasm and ready to hit the ground running in 2015, provided that regulatory approval is granted by then. So, along with the trait, there'll be new formulations for chemistry, which will be called Extend and Extendamax. That'll be new low volatility dicamba formulations, and those will be available at when it's launched as well. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer after this.
How you doing, David? Good to see you.
So I know we, as a group, went over to the research farm. We've seen that dicamba beans for a couple times, a couple years now. There's a lot of work being done on the formulations and application, all those things. I know those are a big concern of what's all coming out there. The other thing, one little tidbit that I found very interesting was that dicamba is actually was it the 5th most widely used herbicide in the world, and it's actually used very, very widely in lawn care, which surprised me. I did not realize that. So I know there's a lot of concern about volatility and so on and so forth, but they're working very hard to address some of that. So,
okay. All right. Okay.
Doug?
Doug's going to talk about our early varieties.
So glad they put me because I get to use the same story I did on the corn, guys. Same thing. We're not going to pop a lot of acres of 2271s right in this part of the world. As we move north, we're definitely going to start using it more heavily, or even 34 or 2466s. So we're talking a 2.4 maturity and a 2.2 maturity. Very similar, probably the 2466s. If we are dealing with a little tougher ground, we might want to throw the 2466s on there. Phytophthora resistance, I know myself, I have seen some benefits when we have that 1K gene. 1K gene does come through on the 2271s, so if that's something that you have paid attention to, that's something that we're bringing to you with this new 2.2. Randy's 2.4 is the earliest we've been bringing in our lineup. Why do we move into the 2.2? It's the exact same story. You guys are getting a little bigger, you need to cover more acres, you need to get in the fields a little faster. You want to be able to do it without sacrificing yield. So we brought a 2.2 that, in Randy's words, is flat out good. We haven't, it's new on us. We're still looking at it. We don't have the history with it that we have with some of these other beans in the lineup. But if you're wanting to really get in there early, whether it's for cover crops, whether you're wanting to get wheat planted, whether you're just wanting to get into your corn as fast as you can, so you want to get started with your beans. There's all kinds of reasons to plant an early bean. But here's one that we can plant. So your 2.2, your 2466s, they're going to yield right up in there with most 2.5s and 2.6s out there. At the same time, Jay's going to talk to you about 2635s, and we've been awful happy with those. We've had a really good history with them. We have the 2635s that have been in our lineup now for a couple of years, and it's really a soybean that I've really liked and used a lot. It's a 2.6, but in my eyes, it actually is maybe a little bit later. And with that later, it really has for a 2.6, a really good yield pop. It does have a little stronger than average defense on white mold. I know there's some talk about some white mold, some Iroquois County, I think I've heard of two places, and then I know a couple in Livingston County where I'm at where they've had accounts of white mold already. So this is one that it's earlier hybrid to where we can, or earlier maturity to where we can hopefully beat that white mold, but then it has a good defense against it too, but we're not losing any yield. This one has really yielded right up with our 2.7s and 2.8s. Going on to our 2.8 now. 2871, this one has, a lot of you guys have kind of used the 2850s in the past. We introduced 2871s now, and this one has the defense and everything like that 2850 did, but we're seeing a better yield out of it. So that's why we moved into this one for our 2.8 maturity. It has basically what I would call a home on every farm. It says it in the book. This we can put anywhere on any soil, and it's got defense and a top yield that has really done very well for us. So late season health and look, and the 2871s, like I said, if you would plant those 2850s, you'll be even happier and do a little better job than those. So that's the 2871s.
The next two are 2950 and the 2971. I would imagine, if I would ask for a show of hands, how many people in this group have planted 2950s? All right, just about everybody's hand went up. I mean, this is kind of like the mainstay of mainstays. So when you put a variety beside it on both sides and say, I think we're going to replace the 2950s, this is something serious. I believe Randy told me the 2871s, you're growing more of those beans for a first time than any other bean.
Anything else we've ever grown?
Ever grown, they're growing 2871s. That talks about the confidence he has in 2871s. On the other side, just a little bit fuller, is the 2971. This variety has two things. It has incredible emergence, and it is phenomenal for no-till. I really like the looks of this bean coming out of the ground. The other thing, whether it makes any difference or not, it has the deepest green color. Whether that equates to yield, I'm not sure. But when he tells me the back breeding of this variety We've got it somewhat related to our 3066s. These varieties are going to go right to the top. So new introductions, 2871, 2971, companions right against 2950s.
I'm going to go ahead and talk the 3066s, a 3.0 maturity. Here's a medium tall hybrid, excellent on stress tolerance. This variety really showed up extremely well in 2012 with the drought conditions. One that's just got an outstanding performance to it. One that's got very good emergence to it. Can go pretty much anywhere for you on your types of soils as well. So that is 3066. Also 3135, 3.1 maturity. Bean as well, very good stress tolerance as well, very good on SDS, good in a great disease package to this one as well. It's a medium bushy bean. It's got excellent performance to it, great yield potential, and very good combination of defensive and offense type of variety. So that's 3066 and 3135.
I'm going to talk to you about 3466s and 3666s. 3466 is a 3.4, probably closer to a 3.3 variety. Randy's told us every time he talks about it, he calls this variety close to perfect. It jumps out of the ground. It's a taller plant that canopies well, has a great disease package, but the best thing, you just plant it, you don't worry about it. 3666 is real similar to the 3466s. It's a 3.6. Over the last 3 years, we've had real good solid performance data from it. It handles tight clay soils. It canopies real fast. For you guys up here, it's probably a little full season, but like from Route 9 south, this would be a great 3.6 to go in your lineup.
I have the pleasure of talking about the last three varieties here. Some good news, bad news. Probably getting a little late for y'all up in this neck of the woods. But the good news is, if you do plant a late bean, these will work perfect for this area. These are designed for an Indiana, Illinois type of situation. They all have very good standability, very good disease package. The 3.9 here, 3971, is a great bean. Unfortunately, it is a 3.9 and not a 3.6 or a 3.5 for me. Both of these beans, the 3835s, 3735s, great numbers, very high yielding soybeans. Like I said, great health package. They're going to stand for you. They'll work in any row situation, and they work on pretty much any soils that you do throw at.
One thing I will say, we use a lot of 3735s around Hoopston, and they do thrash really nice. Even though they're a 3.7, they almost thrash like a 3.5. They're not a tough bean, but the people who have those in the past have really liked them.
Well, that concludes our plot tour.